JD Vance just took Charlie Kirk's death to a whole new level, vowing to crush what he calls far-left terror groups. The vice president isn't treating this as just another political statement. He's framing it as a war inside America itself. But here's the question. Is this really about justice for a fallen ally? Or is it the beginning of a new kind of political warfare? The lines between grief, power, and strategy are starting to blur, and what comes next could reshape the future of U.S. politics. It wasn't just another podcast. This one was recorded in the heart of Washington, from an office just steps away from the White House itself. Sitting behind the microphone wasn't Charlie Kirk, but Vice President JD Vance, a man determined to carry Kirk's voice forward after his sudden death. Vance wasn't alone. Around him were some of the most familiar names in Trump world: Tucker Carlson, Stephen Miller, and longtime allies of the conservative movement. The atmosphere wasn't one of mourning and silence. It was one of strategy, of rallying, of turning grief into momentum. Instead of describing Kirk's death as just a tragedy, Vance framed it as a mission. To him, it wasn't only about honoring a fallen friend. It was about answering what he saw as a cultural and political war. The podcast became less of a tribute and more of a battle cry. And what Vance said next revealed just how far he's willing to go. Section 3. Stephen Miller's role. Then came Stephen Miller, and his words hit harder than anyone expected. He didn't just mourn Charlie Kirk, he declared that America is under attack by what he called a vast domestic terror movement. Miller vowed that the administration would unleash the full power of the federal government, the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and every tool at their disposal to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks. And he made it personal, promising to carry out this mission in Charlie's name. But Miller didn't stop there. He painted a chilling picture of what he believes is happening in the shadows: organized doxing campaigns, orchestrated riots, deliberate street violence, and online movements designed to incite chaos. According to him, this isn't random, it's coordinated. And in his view, it's time to strike back. Yet the question lingers: is this really about protecting America, or about reshaping political power under the banner of Kirk's memory? Section 4. The shooter and blame. While the rhetoric from Vance and Miller grew sharper, the facts on the ground told a murkier story. Investigators revealed that the shooter left behind strange details: bullet casings inscribed with references to video games and obscure online culture, a bizarre calling card, but hardly a clear political manifesto. And yet, even before the suspect was fully identified, prominent voices on the right wasted no time pointing the finger at the left. To them, Charlie Kirk's death wasn't just a tragedy. It was proof of a larger enemy they've been warning about for years. But here's the problem. So far, there's no evidence that the shooter was part of any organized network, no sign of hidden backers or shadowy cells directing the attack. The blame came first. The facts are still catching up. That gap between what's known and what's claimed has only deepened the divide, raising the stakes for what comes next. As emotions boiled over, the focus shifted from the shooter to the people reacting online. Right-wing influencers began highlighting posts from individuals who they claimed were celebrating Kirk's death. Screenshots circulated, names were shared, and the rallying cry was clear: hold these people accountable. For some, that meant shaming them publicly. For others, it meant going a step further, pressuring employers to fire them. Stephen Miller's stance went even further still. He argued that teachers, lawyers, and even doctors who engaged in this behavior should lose their professional licenses altogether, framing it as a matter of public safety. The escalation raised a chilling question. Where does this crackdown stop? Is this about stamping out political violence or punishing political speech? The line between the two is getting blurrier with every demand for consequences. And then came Donald Trump, never one to hold back. He doubled down on the framing, insisting that the true danger wasn't coming from the right at all, but from the left. In his words, the agitators, the flag burners, the so-called scum who, he claimed, openly despise America. By painting Kirk's death in this light, Trump widened the battlefield. It wasn't just about one shooter anymore, or even about Kirk's memory. It became a broader narrative, a war of patriots against those accused of tearing down the country from within. The message was clear. This wasn't just mourning, this was mobilization. And with Trump's voice carrying the charge, the US versus them climate grew even sharper, leaving little room for nuance or middle ground. He went straight after institutions. His focus? The Nation, one of the oldest and most respected progressive magazines in America. Vance accused the publication of twisting Kirk's words to justify his murder, calling it not just dishonest, but soulless and evil. And then came the bigger target, the money. Vance pointed to the Ford Foundation, George Soros's Open Society, and other wealthy backers, accusing them of fueling a culture that celebrates political violence. He hinted the administration might even move to strip these groups of their tax-exempt status, a shot across the bow that could reshape the nonprofit world. What started as a critique of a single article quickly escalated into a declaration of war on some of the most influential progressive institutions in the country. And if Vance is serious, this could open a new front in America's political conflict, one fought not just in rallies or elections, but in the tax code and the courts. By the end of the podcast, JD Vance wasn't just making policy threats, he was appealing to raw emotion. He painted a picture of the left as soulless and evil, a movement willing to cheer the assassination of a political opponent. In his telling, this isn't just about ideas anymore. It's about life and death. To drive it home, Vance invoked Charlie Kirk not as a political warrior, but as a young husband and father, a man gunned down in broad daylight, leaving behind a grieving family. By framing Kirk's death this way, Vance positioned conservatives as the true victims, smeared, silenced, and now literally targeted. The message was clear. This is not simply politics. It's morality. It's about good versus evil, faith versus chaos. And for Vance and his allies, Charlie's memory is no longer just a tragedy. It's a rallying cry.